Ever feel like you're totally drowning, like
Oh.
in a sea of to-dos? And those big ambitious goals you have, they're just kind of bobbing out there, just out of reach.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's like you're constantly chasing but never quite catching up.
Exactly. And, we've been digging into some really practical tips on setting goals that we can actually achieve no matter how crazy life gets right.
Right. Because who needs another to-do list item that just hangs over your head?
Definitely not me. So we're calling this a deep dive for a reason. We really want to unpack this, make it useful. Ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the things that really stood out from what we've been looking at is this idea of breaking down those massive goals.
Oh, yeah, the huge, daunting ones.
Yes, breaking them down into smaller, bite-sized actions.
This is huge. And it's actually backed by some serious psychology, too. It's not just about making things seem less scary, although that's definitely a bonus. It's about momentum, you know?
Tell me more about that. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so every time you check off one of those smaller tasks, even if it seems insignificant, your brain gets a little reward, like a mini celebration.
Wait, are you talking about dopamine?
Yes,
Yummy.
dopamine, the feel-good hormone. And it's super powerful. That dopamine hit creates this positive feedback loop. You feel good about achieving something, so you're more likely to keep going.
That makes so much sense. So it's not just about the progress we're making, but how that progress actually makes us asterisk feel asterisk.
Absolutely. And you know what else? There's this psychological principle called the Zeigarnik effect. Basically, our brains are hardwired to remember unfinished tasks.
Oh, like when you have a song stuck in your head,
Yeah.
but you can only remember a couple of lines.
Yes, exactly like that. So, by breaking down big goals, we're kind of tricking our brains into staying more engaged. We create more opportunities to experience that feeling of completion, which keeps us motivated.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. So instead of saying, I'm going to write a novel, which can feel totally overwhelming, it's like, I'm going to write for 30 minutes every morning.
There you go. You got it.
Suddenly, it feels so much more doable, and I feel like I can actually, picture myself doing it.
And that's the key, because that feeling, that sense of possibility, it fuels you to actually take action. And that brings us to our next strategy, which kind of builds on this whole momentum thing, deadlines.
Deadlines. Okay, I have a love-hate relationship with deadlines. They can either motivate me or completely stress me out.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, that balance between urgency and, oh my gosh, I'm totally overwhelmed.
Easier said than done, sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do we actually find that sweet spot? Like, what questions should we be asking ourselves?
Well, it's about knowing yourself, right? It's kind of like figuring out what kind of exercise works best for you. Are you a sprinter or a marathon runner?
Ooh, I love that analogy.
Some people, they thrive on that last-minute pressure. They procrastinate, then bam, they power through. Others need that steady, consistent pace to make progress.
And knowing which one you are is key to setting effective deadlines.
Absolutely. Figure out what works best for you. Don't try to force yourself into a mold that doesn't fit your natural rhythm.
Because that just sets us up for feeling like we failed, right?
Exactly. And speaking of not failing, another thing the research really emphasized was the importance of being flexible.
Oh, yes. This really resonated with me because let's be real, life happens. And it often throws those perfectly planned deadlines right out the window.
All the time. Life doesn't care about our to-do lists.
Nope, it does not. But here's the thing. Being flexible, being able to adapt, that doesn't mean giving up on our goals entirely.
Right. It's about adjusting our sails, not abandoning ship.
I love that. So for example, let's say your goal is to exercise every single day this week, but then you wake up with a cold, right? Life threw you a curveball.
Happens to the best of us.
Exactly. So instead of beating yourself up about it or ditching the whole exercise goal altogether, maybe you just adjust.
Yeah.
Instead of that high-intensity workout you had planned, maybe it's a gentle yoga session or a short walk.
There you go. It's about progress, not perfection.
Yes. And speaking of progress, one of the tips that really resonated with me was the power of tracking our progress.
Oh, I love tracking.
Me too. But, without becoming obsessive about it.
Right, because who needs another thing to stress about?
Exactly.
It's about awareness more than anything. Having a visual reminder, whether it's a simple note on your phone, a habit tracker app, or even a colorful chart on your wall, it just helps you stay on top of things.
I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of a chart. It's so satisfying to see those little check marks adding up.
Totally. Or even like a progress bar that slowly fills up as you hit your milestones.
It just makes it feel more real, like you're actually making headway.
Right. And seeing that visual representation of your progress, that can be incredibly motivating in itself.
It's like a little pat on the back every time you look at it.
Exactly. And you know what makes those pats on the back even better?
Love that.
Celebrating the wins along the way. And not just the big ones.
Yes. This is so important, and I think it's something a lot of us forget to do. We get so caught up in the striving, the achieving, that we forget to actually enjoy the journey.
It's like we're always focused on the destination, but the journey is where all the good stuff happens, right?
Absolutely. But celebrating those wins, big or small, it has this incredible power to boost our motivation and keep us going.
100%. Our brains are wired to seek rewards. So when you consciously celebrate your progress, it reinforces that positive behavior loop we were talking about earlier.
It's like giving our brains a high five.
Exactly. And the best part, the rewards themselves can be anything that feels good to you.
I love that you said that because it's so true. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. It's about finding what truly motivates you. Maybe it's buying yourself that new book, planning a weekend getaway, or even just taking an evening off to relax and recharge.
Whatever works, it's about honoring your efforts and acknowledging your accomplishments.
I think that's such a powerful message to end on. So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Remember your why.
Your why.
Yes. The reason behind all of this goal setting in the first place. What is it that you're ultimately working towards? What will achieving these goals bring to your life? Let that why be your guiding star, especially when those smaller steps start to feel a little bit tedious, or when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. You've got this.
You've got this.